Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Good evening and welcome to America at Night. Crazy, crazy day. Some sad news coming out of Minneapolis. A little bit later on in the show, we're going to go to Minneapolis. We had him on the show earlier in the week. Bloyce Olson, who is the political commentator for WCCO in Minneapolis, who is our affiliate there, is going to be joining us. He's boots on the ground. He's got the pulse of the community, so we'll get a sense of what they're saying and what they're feeling in Minneapolis after that protester was shot and killed. And depending on where you sit on the political spectrum is a lot of how you see that video. I've watched it a million times, and we'll talk more about that throughout the evening and take some phone calls and talk to Blois in the third hour. Brad Meltzer, who is a author, he's written fiction, he's written nonfiction, he's written children's books. He's going to join us. He's out with a new New York Times bestseller. He's going to join us in the second hour. This first hour, though, we have a treat for you. CNN has a White House correspondent that is fantastic. Alayna Treene is her name, and she joins us from Washington, D.C. for a couple of minutes. Alayna Treene from CNN, White House correspondent. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's a crazy day, and I know that things sort of went into overdrive after this shooting in Minneapolis. The White House was quick to go on the offensive. What did they say, and how did they say it today?
They did, and we heard a lot of people from, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, to different top officials, and even the president himself coming out and defending the ICE officer who ended up, shooting and killing this woman who has also been identified, but we can get to that later. If you want, I can read you some of the president's posts, or actually I'll just paraphrase it because, as we all know, the president likes to, his posts are a bit lengthy, but he said that he had watched the clip of that you just referenced, McGraw, that I think many of us have all watched repeatedly today in the aftermath of the shooting. He said he watched it. He said it was a horrible thing to watch. And he described the woman who ended up being shot and killed as a professional agitator. He said that she was very disorderly and obstructing and resisting, and essentially was saying that the ICE officer had acted in a way of self-defense. Now, to be clear, we are seeing a lot of different, as you mentioned as well, a lot of different reaction from both sides of the political spectrum. You heard from the the Minneapolis mayor today, Jacob Frey, describing this very differently, saying that this was not an act of self-defense. And so you're seeing a lot of different opinions come out, but at least from the White House side, they were very quick to stick by ICE. And essentially as well, we heard the president argue that this is a response from what he said was the radical left, that they are threatening, assaulting, targeting law enforcement officers, saying that it's a very politically charged situation, which, it has been. I think ICE in many of these different cities, but particularly the Democratic cities that they have gone into, where local leaders have been very public about them not wanting ICE in those cities, we have seen it become incredibly politically charged. And so we've seen a lot of Republicans, the president, we saw many Republicans as well on Capitol Hill, kind of emphasize that today in the aftermath of all of this.
Yeah, we have to also put this into context as well, right? He sent some ICE into Chicago, and the courts said he couldn't, so he took them out. These ICE officers just newly arrived in Minneapolis because of the viral video that went viral and some of the fraud allegations with the Somali immigrants. So that is why they were there in the first place. And I guess there's a lot we don't know as to what this woman was doing. Was she actually trying to get in the way of ICE's investigation? It looked like she seemed to be blocking some cars. But, Alayna, there's a lot we really don't know about this, right?
Yeah, and I think that's such an important thing for everyone to keep in mind. I think it's easy for a lot of people, and we've heard this from many, lawmakers and leaders today, again, Democrats and Republicans alike, who have cautioned that it's hard to draw conclusions, particularly from the videos that have been circulated on this, or even from what we are initially hearing, because the investigation, of course, has just been opened. They are looking into what exactly happened. So it's hard to really know exactly what she was doing. What we do know, at least, and this is according to U.S. Senator Tina Smith, she's a Minnesota Democrat. She did identify who the woman is, and I think it's important to keep in mind, her identity in all of this. Smith had said that the victim was an American citizen. She was a 37-year-old woman. I note that, and I would say it's so important because, of course, a lot of the skirmishes and conflicts and controversy we've seen as it related to some of these ICE operations has been around, of course, undocumented migrants in this country. I think it's important to keep in mind that this woman, at least according to Democratic Senator from Minnesota, Tina Smith, says that she was an American citizen. She had a partner. They lived in the Twin Cities. So just some information. I think the Star Tribune, as I'm was reading through this today, had also confirmed that as well.
Yeah. Alayna Treene with us from CNN, White House Correspondent. Today was a very busy day that had, before this Minnesota story, captured the attention of the country. I want to ask you about Greenland, because that seems to be such a hot topic, and it seems that the White House is mentioning and saying a number of different things. Marco Rubio says one thing, and then Trump's people say something else. So give us the latest on Greenland, and do we know if it's going to be the 51st state anytime soon?
I don't, look, it's funny because I've talked to so many White House officials and Trump administration officials, and not even just in the past several months or going back to the early days of the Trump administration when this was very much a topic of conversation behind the scenes among many of the president's closest advisors. But this is a topic of conversation actually going back to the first Trump term. The president really fixated back then as well on Greenland. Of course, his overtures back then, didn't amount to anything. He is very serious about this. And I think that's become even more clear in the days since the operation in Venezuela and led, a renewed conversation over other territories that the president believes are very important for the United States to have not only a hand in, but ultimately own. And just to break it down, because I think what's lost in a lot of the conversation around Greenland is why the president is so fixated on it and why he believes it is so important for the United States to have such a stake in. And it's because there's been a lot of aggression from some of the United States foreign adversaries, places like China and Russia specifically in the Arctic region. And Trump's argument and the administration's argument is that it would be in better hands if the United States was running a lot of the national security operations around that. Now, of course, this is not welcome news to a lot of, particularly Denmark, I should say. Greenland is a Danish territory. Denmark, notably, is part of NATO. We saw a lot of statements coming out from several European countries, including France and Germany and the Netherlands. The list goes on, saying that this is a NATO country, that any steps to undermine it is undermining NATO overall. So there's a lot of controversy around it, and that's why I think there's been so much attention on it, of course. But look, from the president's point of view, go on.
That's what makes it so interesting, because Denmark has said, hey, you want more bases? Sure. You want to add more troops? Sure. They're very open to the United States doing really anything they want on the land. So what's the benefit of the United States taking it? You're just going to make more enemies than you are friends by just sort of strong-arming Denmark to sort of take Greenland when you really don't need to.
Yeah, well, that's not how the president sees it, McGraw. And I know that I've had extensive conversations with people at the White House about this. Look, I will say you are hearing a bit more nuance from some of the president's top officials, people like the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who wears that other hat, which is acting national security advisor. He has assured lawmakers, people in Congress this week, that the president wants to buy Greenland. He said he doesn't want to invade it. But then you also had the White House issuing a statement yesterday trying to clarify a lot of the confusion and controversy around this idea, where they essentially said that the president is reserving the right to use the military to try and take Greenland. But I hear your point, and I think it's the point that many people are making, which is, what is the benefit of this? Actually, Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, she gave a press briefing today. She was asked a question by a reporter, why not just opt for diplomacy here and work with Denmark and Greenland on achieving your objectives? And Caroline essentially said, he is interested in diplomacy. He's open to having those conversations. But I think it all comes down to, again, and I know this because I covered the first Trump administration as well, this was a similar argument that was made in the conversations I had around it back then, which is that the president genuinely believes that the U.S. has heightened interest by being the ones to operate all of the national security in that region. It's not similar to what's happening in Venezuela, of course, but what is similar is that, for example, a lot of the Venezuela strategy that the president is running right now is because he wants far more U.S. influence throughout the entire Western Hemisphere. He kind of wants similar influence in the Arctic region. He wants the U.S. to be running the Arctic region and to making sure that the Russians and the Chinese are not the ones to get the upper hand there. And frankly, the president does not believe, essentially, that Greenland, which is being controlled by Denmark at this point in time, is able to do that.
Yeah. Alayna Treene with us for a couple more minutes, CNN White House correspondent, on her first of what I hope to be many check-ins with us on the show. I got about 3 minutes left. I want to ask you about this Venezuelan oil, because last night he tweeted out that he took the oil, 30 to 50 million gallons, barrels, whatever it was, and he sold it on the open market, and he alone is going to decide how best to spend the money on the United States and or Venezuela. Is that legal? What authority does he have to do that? And how is that playing in Venezuela, that he's just sort of taking their oil and then he himself is deciding how to spend it?
Yeah, it's very controversial. And we heard a lot of explanations, actually, from several different officials, including the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, today, trying to clarify some of this. The legal justification of this, they keep going back to the Monroe Doctrine. And really, with the whole question of oil, it really does come down to they believe that this is leverage. And I actually think Trump actually did an interview with Joe Scarborough from MS Now the other day. And I thought this was one of the most telling quotes I've seen in the days since the Venezuela operation and the capture of Nicolas Maduro. He essentially told Scarborough that what's different from what George W. Bush did in Iraq is that he didn't take the oil. We're going to keep the oil. We're going to get the oil. I'm paraphrasing that. It wasn't not a direct quote, but that was essentially the essence of what the president told him. I think that really exemplifies the broader outlook that the president has here when it comes to this. And it's also the number one defense, really, that he is using when a lot of critics are arguing, the United States has done regime changes in the past. You look at the Middle East, they normally do not go well. And that is what he thinks makes this different. I will also say, I did some reporting today about some of the conditions that the Trump administration has essentially outlined to the interim Venezuelan government being run by the acting president, Delcy Rodriguez. She was, I should note, Maduro's former vice president. So very much a part of the Maduro government and regime. Essentially, they're saying that there are a couple of things here. One, you need to absolutely sever ties with the United States' foreign adversaries. That means severing economic ties with China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, countries that had been propping up the Maduro government for several years, and obviously big winners, really, when it came to Venezuelan oil. The other thing is that they have to favor the United States and specifically the Trump administration and U.S. oil companies when doing any sort of oil sales. This is obviously majorly controversial. It's also something that is very much unclear is even possible, because one of the problems with this entire strategy that people have pointed out is that investing right now in Venezuelan oil and essentially rebuilding their entire energy infrastructure to bring it back to the historic levels of oil production they've had in the past, which is what the Trump administration wants, is not really, it's kind of a risky bet, I should say, for a lot of oil companies. And so it could be a hard sell. And it's something actually that Chris Wright himself, the energy secretary who has been meeting with oil executives, had actually said today when he was speaking at a conference in Miami. He said,
So they have acknowledged. Yeah, they have acknowledged themselves that this is a lot harder when you put it into reality as opposed to just talking about it theoretically. Alayna Treene, who was with us, CNN White House correspondent, well-respected, well-trusted in the circles at the White House. Alayna, thank you for joining us on a really, really busy day. Thanks for staying up late. We'll watch you tomorrow morning on CNN, and we hope to talk to you down the road.
Thank you so much, McGraw. Have a good night.
Alayna Treene with us. Alayna Treene, I apologize. Alayna Treene with us from CNN White House correspondent. Hey, America at Night, back in a moment.
Live from coast to coast, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, so hang tight. We're going to talk with Bloyce Olson. He is WCCO's political commentator. He joined us Monday night to talk about the fraud allegations and the daycare allegations on Monday night. He was a great guest. We got a great response. And then today, after this terrible story of this ICE shooting of this woman, we dialed him up again, and he was more than willing to come back and join us. So he's going to join us here in just a moment. We don't know much about this story. We've seen the video. Maybe you've seen the video. It's hard to describe. It's even harder to watch, not necessarily in terms of the violence of it, but in trying to understand what exactly happened. We do know that a woman named Renee Nicole Good, 37 years old, has died. She was the woman in the car. She was a U.S. citizen living in Minneapolis. She had a 6-year-old child, which is, if this story could get any more heartbreaking, she had a 6-year-old child, and she had a partner. Her mother said she was a loved and celebrated community member who has been loving, forgiving, and affectionate. And she passed away at the age of 37. That's what we know, and there's a whole lot of opinions and a lot of speculation. Stay right there. We'll check in with boots on the ground from a political commentator who is well-respected and well-trusted in the Minneapolis area. He'll give us a sense of how today, not just what happened, but the feelings of the people in Minneapolis as they once again become the center of the universe with this story. McGraw Milhaven, America at Night. Back in a moment.
This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Minneapolis has had a string of bad luck stories. A couple of months ago, they had those state senators and state lawmakers who were killed at their front door by a deranged gunman. You had a school shooting where the little kids were in the school, and then you had the viral video where they alleged major fraud by the Somali immigrants, and now you have a shooting where an ICE officer shoots and kills a 37-year-old Minneapolis woman, and it is once again the center of the universe. To get a sense of what's going on, Bloyce Olson is the chief political commentator for our affiliate there, WCCO in Minneapolis. He also has a Substack, thedailyagenda.com. Bloyce, you were on the show earlier in the week, and we got such a great response. You were our go-to this morning. Wish it could be under better circumstances, but set the scene for us. As you mentioned Monday, you recapped for us, Minnesota and Minneapolis has been the center of some terrible stories. This one just adds to the list. Set the scene for us. What's the feeling in Minneapolis this evening?
McGraw, it's a feeling of sadness once again in the state, in the city, because I think the average Minnesotan just wants some calm. And we have just not been able to find calm. And today's reason we can't find calm is because an ICE agent killed someone who's a U.S. citizen, a 37-year-old mother. And, you know, everybody's going to draw their own conclusions. But I don't think that as a 53-year-old man in America, I don't think this is the way in which any of us envisioned either immigration enforcement or protests gone wrong. And I think that's the emotion and the noise and how do you sort through America in 2026 when this is what happens on a Wednesday in Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's a great point. The rhetoric and the tension and the anger, right? It's at a feverish pitch. And so we're not surprised that something tragic like this happens because we're such a heightened sense of energy and emotion and anger. Do we know, we've all seen the video, but do we know what happened before then? Was she protesting? Was she trying to block the ICE agents? What do we know happened before we've all seen the video?
We don't. I think this is one of those moments in media where we have to be responsible because there's plenty of people who are speculating. There's plenty of people who don't know. There's plenty of people not in Minnesota that are going to speculate and come to judgment. And the reality is that we have to wait. And this is where the I want it now, I want all the information, attention span of the modern media consumer wants to figure it all out right now. And the reality is we don't have to we can't figure it out. We have not seen any other footage. And I think that's the good news here, McGraw, is that we have video from citizens. The bad news is we don't have all the video. And I think we don't know what happened or transpired before this. There are signals that this was a protest car or a car leading a protest against ICE and that ICE tried to contain this vehicle. But I have not seen that with my own eyes. And I'll just pull back for a second. I think one of the things we've learned in this era of video is everything is that until we see it with our own eyes, we have trouble trusting it. And so I think that's what we want to be mindful of, is not to jump to conclusions and beg patience and peace for those people who are trying to figure this out.
Yeah, well said. But I'll go one step further. I've seen the video numerous times, the 3 or 4 different videos, the number of angles. I've seen it slowed down. And to be honest with you, I have a hard time trying to decipher what I'm seeing, even though I've watched it 10, 15, 20 times.
Well, I think that's the case. And, you know, look, I've unfortunately been around a few of these law enforcement involved shootings in Minnesota. And you have to really separate what you see from what you believe. You have to look at the angles. You have to try to put yourself in the moment of the officer and or the driver. And I would just say it this way, any adult who's had a moment where emotions get the better of them can probably relate to both sides of the video in this case. If you are someone who's had a moment where you panicked and maybe you drove wrong or you walked wrong or you yelled wrong or you swung wrong, or you thought you were in danger and maybe you weren't, but you had to react to protect yourself, the speed of the neurons in the brain are not something that we can recreate. And I think this is one of those moments where humans in different roles with different views, with different emotions, created an incident that ultimately you could argue didn't need to be created by either side. If she was disrupting an ICE action, she made that choice. If ICE agents were more aggressive, they made that choice. And those are the choices that are dividing America.
Yeah. What's going on tonight? What are the protests like tonight and or the vigils going on? Set the scene for us about what's going on tonight.
All signals are that the protests tonight are very peaceful. Our team here at Fluence Advisory, we do consulting and critical communication response, as well as publish our newsletters. All signs are that it's peaceful. There's thousands of people in the street of Minneapolis. I will remind you that it's 20 degrees. We are hardy folk. Even the protesters are hardy. They are out there expressing their First Amendment rights in a peaceful manner. The governor has alerted the National Guard that should they need to be activated, that they are prepared to be activated. The state patrol special units have all surged to Minneapolis to make sure we're safe. And unfortunately, between 2020 and 2022, we had a couple different incidents where law enforcement killed people, including obviously George Floyd. And so the good news is we have experience. I think the challenging news is that we're not sure what to trust. Can we trust that we can keep the peace, and can we trust law enforcement? It's an interesting moment, and I just want to call this out. And I haven't said this publicly, so I'd be interested in kind of the national audience's view on this. I mean, you have a police force that was critiqued, criticized, and decimated after George Floyd and the defund the police movement. They're now in the middle. Now it's not the citizens of Minneapolis against the police of Minneapolis. It's the police of Minneapolis trying to keep the peace after federal agents were in the city, and the citizens of Minneapolis want to protest. And so it's a little bit of a mind shift, I think, for the protest crowd and the anti-law enforcement crowd in Minneapolis, is because they understand that Minneapolis police had nothing to do with this.
Yeah, interesting point. Tell us about the neighborhood that this happened in.
So this is 6 blocks from where George Floyd was killed. This is, I think, for listeners to understand, this is towards the better edge of the city. So if George Floyd Square is an impoverished community, working class, there's some drug activity in that neighborhood pre-George Floyd. But this is working class, white liberal neighborhood, a lot of duplexes. So you're going to have a lot of owner lives on one level of the duplex and rents the other half. It's the southern part of Minneapolis, which is generally the quiet part of Minneapolis, or more quiet than the places where just adjacent to downtown is a community you and I talked about on Monday night, Monday night with where the Somali refugees have. It's a very immigrant-focused community. This is probably, let me just do the math, 44 blocks from there. Mm-hmm. So think of a typical city. This is about 44 blocks from the neighborhoods we talked about with some of the daycare fraud that we talked about on Monday.
Yeah. Bloyce Olson, our guest for a couple more minutes. He's a commentator for WCCO up in Minneapolis, has a Substack, and is well-respected and voice of reason. So we do appreciate your time on a busy night. Mayor Jacob Frey was introduced to the country today with some salty language. I don't think I've ever seen a mayor that upset and that angry to where he would use that type of language. How is that playing up there?
Well, first of all, it's Mayor Fry, not Frey, okay. But welcome to Minnesota pronunciation. As a Blois Olson, I'm sensitive to these things. No, let's just say, look, Mayor Fry has had a hell of a run. He was the mayor during George Floyd. He was the mayor during the Annunciation shooting. He has been the mayor that celebrated his Super Bowl in our city and all the good things that Minneapolis has hosted. But he is a mayor who speaks to his citizens the way citizens want to understand that the mayor gets them. He just won re-election in a race against a Democratic socialist, Omar Fateh, highly competitive. Minneapolis was the other race other than New York where people were watching to see if Democratic socialists made progress. And in Minneapolis, of all places, voters re-elected Jacob Frey handily. He is accepted as the reasonable mayor. He is not loved. He is not beloved. But I think that he, in the moment, used the salty language because sometimes, and frankly more and more, our leaders are using salty language just to amplify the point they're trying to make. But I would say that inside the city, the folks who are anti-Mayor Fry are still going to be anti-Mayor Fry, okay? And the people who are pro-Mayor Fry are like, good, go get it. But then you have to look at Minneapolis as the economic center of our community, of our region, of our state. And people outside his ring or outside the city do believe that it needs to be toned down. On the counter, Governor Tim Walz, who we talked about earlier in the week, said yesterday in a news conference and repeated it again today that the state of Minnesota is at war with the federal government. I just want to say that again. The governor of the state of Minnesota chose today to repeat that Minnesota is at war with the federal government. And I think that a lot of the folks in the middle who are just scared, they don't understand why we are so divided and why it is violent and so disruptive. They can't imagine a governor saying that and a mayor saying that, and they just want calm. And the problem is that everybody it's kind of like that. Now I'm spacing on the movie, like turn it up to 12 or like, let's go to 12. Like every time it gets louder, somebody wants to yell louder or say something more for their side to get more rallied up. And we can't do that.
It's a great point in that in a situation like this, everyone is just on edge, and the leaders are supposed to bring the calm. That's part of their role, is to just hold a news conference and to remain calm, reassure people we're in control, relax, and yet what they've done is more or less is pour gasoline on the fire. Yep,
and both sides are doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
I want to be clear, and this isn't a whataboutism. This is in a both-sidism. I have watched both sides today say things that your own eyes don't believe to be true. And when I speak, and I speak about 100 times a year across the country about the political environment we're in. But there are moments where your eyes and your brain tell you one thing, and the leaders of our country and our cities and our states are telling you another thing. And they're not going to be trusted because your eyes and your brain see reality and their words don't match reality. And I think on both cases tonight, that's unfortunately where we're at, again, to kind of amplify.
Real quick, I got about a minute and a half left. ICE just recently came into the town. Was there any reporting, any anecdotal evidence of them running roughshod, of being rough, of manhandling? Any issues of them going over the line before this?
So what I would say is the ICE was here. The mayor and the police chief have been warning that their tactics were too aggressive and that this was not going to end well. And then they said 2,000 new agents here this week. So you had larger presence, et cetera. I would say that some of the tactics and methods don't feel like America. Stopping random people on the street, roughing them up, the idea that, outspoken people are saying things that get them riled up and that they have to feel like they defend themselves. Now, if they are truly capturing rapists and murderers, they need to be protected because you don't know how dangerous some of the people they are. But it seems to be overbearing for what they are trying to accomplish here. And I think that turned up the temperature quite a bit.
The Substack is thedailyagenda.com. He's a political commentator for WCCO in Minneapolis, and he is a voice of calm in an otherwise very, very scary night. Bloyce Olson, thank you very much for your time. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you down the road.
We will talk down the road, but I hope it's not twice a week for the rest of the year.
Me too. Thank you, sir. America at Night, back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, listen to this. Nearly 44% of U.S. adults this year have gotten the flu shot. 44%. That's up from 41% last year. The reason why I bring this up is that we are in the midst of what is many believed the worst flu season in years. Listen to these numbers. 11 million people apparently have gotten sick. 120,000 have been hospitalized, and 5,000 have died so far from the flu this year. That's according to the latest numbers from the CDC, and including 9 pediatric deaths. This flu is ravaging the southern part of the United States, the Northeast, the central states. It's only moderately terrible out west, but Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, all having high levels of influenza, and the experts are saying it is only going to get worse. They're calling this one of the worst flu seasons. And they also say that if you want to, you can still get the flu shot. Even though it may not prevent you from getting the flu, they say every little bit helps, and so it's not too late to get the flu shot. I would say check with your doctor. Stay right there. Brad Meltzer, New York Times bestselling author, is going to join us about his new book next hour, and then, of course, open phones. Our executive director tonight is Alex Hinton. Our producer is Richard Good, and I'm McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, welcome back. Hour number 2. Hey, we'll take phone calls. Hour number 3. We can talk about that Minnesota shooting and your thoughts and everything else in the next hour. But we're going to leave the news of the day and have a nice conversation with an author. Not just an author, a prolific author. Everything he does ends up on the New York Times bestseller list. And he recently gave a commencement address at the University of Michigan, and some have called it the best commencement address ever given. Of course, I'm talking about New York Times bestselling author and the author of the new book called The Viper. He is nonfiction, he's fiction, he's children's books. This new one is The Viper, a fast-paced thriller of family bonds and deadly conspiracies. Brad Meltzer, welcome to America at Night.
Oh, Brother McGraw, I'm so happy to be here and hear your voice.
Yeah, you betcha. We'll get to the Scalar brothers in a little bit later on in the show if we have time.
Oh, yes.
But was it last year you were on the show talking about the JFK conspiracy, and now you're out with the whole? I mean, what do you write every single day, all day long?
You know, it looks like I'm fast. This book took me 4 years to do, so it wasn't a year. It's just 4 years in the making. But if I can convince you that I'm fast, then I'm happy.
Okay, good. All right, so set the hook for us. Tell us about The Viper.
Yeah, so it opens with this. A man walks into a funeral home carrying his favorite blue suit. He's got a terminal disease, and this is the suit that he wants to be buried in. But here's the thing. If you go to a bank and you open a safety deposit box, paperwork gets filed, and the government, if they want to, they can eventually find it. Same thing if you go to the UPS store and you open up a P.O. box, paperwork's always there. But if you secretly sew something into the lining of your suit and you hand that suit to your local mortician, you have the ultimate untraceable hiding spot. So from there, the man goes back to his hotel. There's a guy with a gun waiting who says, "Where is it?" He says, "I don't know what you're talking about." The guy shoots the man dead. That suit is still hanging in the local mortician's office. You won't believe what is hiding inside that suit or who's about to find it. And that's chapter 1 of The Viper.
Do you come up with this on your own? Do you dream these things? I mean, that's a pretty bizarre opening.
I found this one. I'm so glad you asked. I was in a funeral home, as one is when you're doing research on thrillers, and a buddy was taking me around, and he showed me, here's where the urns are, here's where the tools are, the bone saws, all these gruesome things. And I see this giant locked door with a giant padlock on it. And I'm like, what's in there? It's the only locked place in the whole building. And he says, oh, you're going to like this. And he undoes this giant padlock, and the door swings wide. And inside are all the kind of clothes that your grandparents used to wear to a big formal event. So there's like a pinstripe double-breasted suit. There's a sequin gown. And if you're old and you have no family, you pick out what you want to be buried in. And the funny part is there's Jets jerseys in there. There's like a there's a cowboy hat that someone's like, my ex-wife hates this hat. Make sure I'm buried with it so I can piss her off one last time. Like people are crazy and they're funny. And I looked at that and I thought, oh my gosh, that's the best hiding spot I've ever seen. No one can track it. So that just shows you kind of how my brain works, but that's where the thriller began.
That's fantastic. The book is called The Viper. When you write, because you write a lot of nonfiction and you write a lot of children's books, but when you write fiction, tell me about the process. Do you know where it's going? Do you outline it first? Do you just sit down and start spewing it out on the laptop? How do you do it?
I always know the beginning, of course. That's the hook. I have no idea of the middle, and I have to know the ending. When you're doing this is a murder mystery, it's a thriller. It's about family secrets and all these things that you would never find out about your family. And you got to know what the secret is. You got to know who, if you're doing a whodunit, I always say, you got to know who to leave out of the room while the done-it is happening. But what I do is the fun for me is that over the 2 years it takes me to write a novel, and in this case 3 years, it will, on 6 months in, I'll be sitting in the shower and I'm like, wait a minute. These two people, they're sleeping together. They're actually working. And slowly, that's the fun of it. And then it evolves, it gets better, it gets honed. And the most important part, let's be honest, for me, is the research. And research is always driving everything I do.
Yeah, so that was my next question was good writers will say that when they write fiction, they can hide all the truth in the fictional account. Do you find that to be true?
I do. It's a really smart question. I do. I think that, I think we're going to go here, but I'll say it. So my father was a complicated man. May he rest in peace. I buried my mom, my dad. And for years, I was writing books trying to kind of get over the death of my parents. And as I was writing this book, the last line that I put in the whole book is actually the opening quote of the book. And it's a line that says, I don't believe in closure. I'm not sure we ever get over anything. And I was like, why is that affecting me so much? And my father, when I went to college, my last year at Michigan, I went to register for classes, and they basically said, you're kicked out of school. And I said, what do you mean? They said, no one's paid your bill all year. And immediately I went, oh, Dad. And I calmed things down. I went down to the registrar. They turned my debt into loans. They gave me a 1% loan. I smoothed it all over. When I graduate college, I move, and you change your home address, and now you get your mail. They used to go to your house, but now it comes to you. And suddenly $40,000 of credit card debt starts showing up on credit cards that I never opened. That's how my father was paying for college. He was basically getting it, and it was so stupid because he was taking a 22% interest rate credit card rather than a 1% loan. They told me the only way out of it is if I reported my dad to the authorities, testified against him, sent him to jail, that it was fraud. I'm like, I'm not ratting my father out. So again, I calm everything down. We make deals with all the people. We make it all go away. Gets calm again. But eventually, if you get hit in the back of the head enough, you start looking over your shoulder. But here's the truth that I couldn't see. And I told this story at my dad's funeral. My dad used to get beat up by his father. And his dad was a boxer in the military. And I know my dad used to jump in front of my uncle, his younger brother, so he would take the hits for him so his younger brother won't get hit. I know he jumped in front of his own mother so his mother won't get hit. But I couldn't see that all those things my dad was doing, even though they were dumb and misguided, he was trying to take the punches for me so that I could be the first in my family to get out and go to a 4-year college in my immediate family. And I couldn't see that part of the story because I was so mad at the harm my dad did and all the pain he caused me. And when I was writing this book, I was like, oh, that's what the closure part's about. And that's when I realized that closure's overrated. And I couldn't, what I've got to realize is there's a whole other version of the story that isn't just about me and my pain and my worry, but it was about my dad's good intentions, as misguided as they were. And closure's overrated. What you have to do is just love yourself for who you are. That's the secret to life, accepting your flaws, your good parts, as well as your bad parts.
We're just getting started. Brad Meltzer is our guest. His New York Times bestselling book is called, it's The Viper, a Zig and Nola novel. He's a nonfiction writer. He's a fiction writer. He's a children's writer. And we have to ask him about that commencement address at the University of Michigan. We are just getting started. America at Night. Back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven, where the nation comes to talk. Relax. You're listening to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, there's a new book out. Just came out. It's #1 on Amazon. Brad Meltzer is the author. The book is called The Viper, and everything he writes ends up on the New York Times bestseller list. The reason why this isn't on the New York Times bestseller list because the book came out yesterday. Hasn't had time, but it'll get there. The Viper, a fast-paced thriller of family bonds and deadly conspiracies. Brad, let's talk about some of your other works because you've been on the show numerous times talking about different books throughout the years. We've never really talked about your children's books. I love the concept. I've got a 5-year-old, and I'm starting to sort of pick off the ones. It's a great concept. I love it. Tell us about how it all came about.
It happened when I had a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I just was looking around and thinking, you know what? I'm so tired. I want to give my kids better heroes to look up to. I'm tired of them looking at people who are famous on Instagram, who have a lot of likes and followers, or millionaire overpaid actors and athletes. I was like, I can do so much better than that. And my 8-year-old daughter at the time, I said to her, here's Amelia Earhart. Isn't she amazing? She flew across the Atlantic. And my daughter said to me, big deal, Dad. Everyone flies across the Atlantic. She was not impressed at all. And then I told her this true story that when Amelia Earhart was 7 years old, she built a homemade roller coaster in her backyard. She took a wooden crate. She put roller skating wheels on the bottom of it. She shoved it to the roof of her tool shed. She put a giant 2x4s down there and came rolling down the 2x4s, flew through the air. The whole thing crashed and fell apart. But she said that feeling she had when her stomach bottomed out from under her, she wanted that feeling back again. And that's the first time Amelia Earhart ever flew. She was just 7 years old. And I told my daughter that story, and she was like, I like that story. And so that's what we started to do. We started telling these real stories, illustrated children's books for kids, ages 4 to about 12 years old, cartoon, pictures that look like a cross between Calvin and Hobbes meets Charlie Brown. And we did I'm Amelia Earhart, I'm Abraham Lincoln, I am Rosa Parks. My son loves sports. I said, you want to have an athlete that you should look up to? Here's I am Jackie Robinson. My daughter loves dogs and animals. I said, you want to see what you can do with the love of animals? Here's I am Jane Goodall. And my youngest is creative. I said, here, you want to see what you can do with creativity? Here's I am Jim Henson. I am Mr. Rogers. I am Leonardo da Vinci. And I love now that we have built, people take our books and they build libraries of real heroes for their kids, their grandkids, their nieces, their nephews. It's been one of the great gifts we've ever been able to truly give to ourselves.
Well, and it's right. You're constantly finding or looking for, I am anyway, searching for books in which you can read to them and not just see Spot run, but have some type of message included in it, and tell a story along the way, and get them interested in stories and learning. And it's such a wide variety. And there's so many of them, I almost feel like I can never run out of them. So there's a never-ending supply of great stories. A brilliant, brilliant idea. Any interest in turning that into a cartoon series or a series on Netflix or something along those lines?
We did. It's on PBS Kids right now. We actually did it. We've been. It's called Xavier Riddle in the Secret Museum. It's about a little boy named Xavier, his sister Yadina, and their best friend Brad, the most handsome cartoon character in all the land. And they basically have a problem, like they're being bullied. They go back in time to meet Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks teaches them how to deal with bullies. When they come back to the present day, it's been nominated now. We're on season 2. It's been nominated for 4 Emmys. We just got nominated 2 days ago for Best Show for the Annie Awards. We're on after Sesame Street. It's an incredible thing to do. And when you do kids books, you may say, oh, I want that for my kid or my grandkid. But none of it matters if the kids themselves don't like the books. And that's the beautiful part. I had a book signing tonight for The Viper, and it was all these parents and kids came. And I'm like, thank you for bringing your kids to hear about murder. Isn't this wonderful? But the little kids love the books because Chris's art is so lovable. And it's the kids who say, I want to read more. We have kids every Halloween now. I show dozens of pictures dressed as Amelia Earhart, dressed as Jackie Robinson, dressed as Rosa Parks. And it's so humbling to me. George Washington and Dolly Parton and Jane Goodall. And I love the fact that there's girls dressed like Neil Armstrong and they want to be astronauts like Sally Ride. And even for the new books, I started looking around and saying, well, what do our kids need now? And I thought our kids are dealing with mental health issues. So we did I Am Simone Biles. The book that comes out in 2 weeks, I said, I need to do a book on empathy. Our kids are starving for empathy. So we're doing I Am Princess Diana. And the series has really been something that I think caught us off guard. I built it just for my 5-year-old and 8-year-old. And now we have, 7 million books that we've done with it. It's incredible.
It's a great story. I want to get to the Michigan commencement address, and I want to get to the Sklar brothers and some of your other stuff. I got a break for the bottom of the hour. I got 3 minutes. Let me tell you this story that is in the line with your children's books. Yesterday, we were watching the news with the 5-year-old, and Jackie Joyner-Kersee came on. And she is a St. Louis icon. She's considered one of the greatest female athletes of all time. But she also happens to be the nicest woman you will ever want to meet. The most unassuming, most open-hearted, approachable. And I stopped the newscast, and I called over my 5-year-old, and I sat her down, and I said, look, you need to watch this woman and see her talk and see her, because this is, and I tried to instill in her, as only the way a father could, scold a 5-year-old. Look, kid, this woman is an important.
Be impressed.
Right. And I actually broke out in highs because they did that to me when I was 5 years old. But I just felt this urge to tell her, look, this is what's great about America, and you should pay attention to this woman.
Well, let me tell you why we're aligned here. Is Jackie Joyner-Kersee, I know, because she's been we had her on our cartoon show. We did an episode of her. So if you want your daughter to love it, you can find it on YouTube. You put in Jackie Joyner-Kersee and Xavier Riddle, and she was our consultant and had to agree to be on the show. In fact, when we launched the show, she launched the show with us. And and now there are millions of kids who have watched her story through our artists and our kids' books. So your daughter's in for a treat right now. And
is she not the sweetest woman you'll ever meet?
The greatest. Yeah.
I
mean, I was like, and they in fact put us on a tour together, doing press interviews, and those things. People can get tired, whatever. She's still at her age, just a bundle of energy and amazing.
Brad Meltzer is our guest. His new book just out, called The Viper, the fast-paced thriller of family bonds and deadly conspiracies. It's #1 on Amazon, and it's certainly going to be on the New York Times bestseller list when the new one comes out next week. Stick around. We got lots more to get to. He gave a commencement address at the University of Michigan, which many call the best of all time. We'll come back and talk more with Brad and his new book, The Viper, America at Night. Back in a moment.
This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Welcome to America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
The book just dropped yesterday. It's called The Viper, and it's #1 already on Amazon. Our guest and author of the book, Brad Meltzer, who is a friend of the show, a prolific writer of fiction, nonfiction, children's books. I want to go back to something you said earlier, Brad. As you were researching The Viper, you went to the funeral home, and there's a closet of clothes that people have for what they choose to be buried in. Did you say that somebody really wants to be buried in a Jets jersey? That person, man, is hardcore, man. I'm a Jets fan, and I don't know if I could spend all of the eternity in a Jets jersey.
It is the ultimate form of self-punishment. What the only reason I understand it is true. My father I don't know how he did this, may he rest in peace, but my dad, in his driver's license photo, he's such a baseball fan, he convinced the DMV to let him take his photo, the only one in all of existence, in his baseball cap, right? You can't wear a hat in that photo. It's like an official government document. But he convinced the people at DMV to do it. So we buried my father in a baseball cap that says "Best Pop Ever," that he wore when he became a grandfather. And I'm like, I get it. So I guess if you love the Jets enough, God bless.
What was his team?
He was a Mets fan and a Giants fan growing up, and then he took on the Dolphins when we moved to Florida. But he was really a Giants and a Mets fan.
New York Giants or San Francisco Giants?
Sorry, New York Giants, and he was a Mets fan. I actually recently I've thrown, we've done, a lot of people have done first pitches like you get to do them, and I've done Yankee Stadium, I did the Marlins, but the Mets finally asked me just to, in the summer. And the thing that was so great is that's my dad and my team. And again, I told you how complicated a relationship I have, but the Mets made a special offer is they let me pick my catcher. And they let my son be my catcher.
Oh my goodness.
So I have my 24-year-old son gets behind home plate in Citi Field, and I take the mound and I throw this pitch, and I'll tell you, Google my name and put it on if you want to cry. If someone put it to the music of Field of Dreams, and then you see me after I throw it, I point it up at the sky at my father. Because I'm like, Dad, of all the things, my dad could care less about books. He could care less about the bestseller list. He could care less about anything. He used to go in every Barnes & Noble, and he'd be like, I'm here for Brad Meltzer's new book. He's my favorite author. And they're like, Mr. Meltzer, we know he's your son. We know. We got it. But he didn't care about the books. He just cared about making the kibitz for it. But he cared about baseball. And then to throw that pitch to my son and get to point up and thank my dad, man, that's the greatest ball I'll ever throw.
Yeah, no, that's baseball gets you every single time. I want to ask you about this commencement address at the University of Michigan. Is it on line 1? And 2, give us a little synopsis of it. What resonated with people?
So I give the commencement address in Michigan. There's 70,000 people in the stadium. And I'm focused on one because my son's graduating that day. And I can see him in the 14th row. He texts me where he is. And what I spoke about to the crowd was I said, I want to speak about magic, which is absurd because magic, of course, doesn't exist. But when you speak to magicians, they'll tell you there are 4 types of magic tricks. Put aside illusions and escapes. There's 4 types of tricks. 1, you make something appear. 2, you make something disappear. 3, you make 2 things switch places. And number 4, you take one thing and you turn it into something else. The hardest trick of all, transformation. And then I go through each of the things what you have to make appear, what you have to make disappear. I get to the 3rd magic trick, which is about making 2 things switch places. And I said, and here let's talk about empathy. And I told this story about when we first moved to Florida. My family had nothing. My dad lost his job, and my parents had to move in with my grandparents because we had no place to live. So there were 6 of us, my mom, my dad, my sister, myself, and my 2 grandparents in a 1-bedroom apartment. And everyone in the condominium in Florida, because it's Florida, was complaining, trying to get us evicted. You can't have 6 people in a 1-bedroom. That's ridiculous. And I was terrified back then because I thought we were going to be evicted. And this one woman across the hallway, saw what was happening. And she came to my grandmother and said, I see what's happening to your family. I want you to take my apartment. I'm going to move in with my son for a couple weeks so your family won't be evicted. To this day, the nicest thing anyone has ever done for me or my family. And I remember as a kid, her name was Mercy. But as a child, I always heard it as Mercy. And make no mistake, mercy and empathy is what she showed me. And that's when you switch places. That's what empathy is, right? Switching places with someone else and looking through their eyes. And today, cruelty and venom and harshly judging those we disagree with, it's become sport in our culture. But cruelty and venom aren't signs of strength. They're signs of weakness and petty insecurity. And what takes strength is showing kindness to people. If you really want to shock the world, unleash your kindness. And as I said those words and talked about empathy, the stadium of 70,000 people just interrupted me. I was like, what are they freaking out over? What's going on? And my wife said after the speech was done, you tapped a vein you didn't know was there. People right now, and especially as we're talking today with everything in Minneapolis, are starving for empathy, starving for kindness. And all of a sudden, everyone from Katie Couric to Maria Shriver, I don't know any of these people, started blasting it around the internet, my speech, which is, of course, online. Put in Brad Meltzer, commencement address, make magic, and it comes right up. And the thing went all over the place, and we then turned it into a book. All these people were like, I need a book. I want to give this as a gift to my kids and my grandkids. And we made a book called Make Magic about it. It's like a $10 book filled with inspiration. And again, it was never designed to be a book. It was just meant to be the love and the advice for my son and my kids. And it became this transformative speech I never saw coming.
Great story. Brad Meltzer, our guest for a couple more minutes. He's out promoting his new book, The Viper. It's a fictional story. People are calling it a great thriller, a great murder mystery wrapped up with a family drama, The Viper, just out now, #1 on Amazon. Tell me about when you met Jason and Randy Sklar. Now, these are full-fledged comedians. They're as crazy as the day is long, longtime friends of mine. And I found out just recently that you're good friends with them. You went to college with them.
These are like my oldest friends on the planet, right? Like I know them since they're 18 years old. And what's so great is my senior year, they were 2 years behind me. So their sophomore year, I entered a talent competition. Now, I have no discernible talent because writing can't be what you do on a stage in front of people. So the only thing I knew, the talent competition had 3 parts. The first part was you had to dress up as your hero. And I knew what I wanted to do. I took a trampoline. I built a Velcro wall. I dressed as Spider-Man. And Randy and Jason, their dad, used to sell industrial Velcro. And I built a Spider-Man Velcro suit, like David Letterman. And I jumped on the trampoline and I stuck to the wall. And the crowd went crazy. And I knew I would get to the second round, which is the talent round. Now, here's where I knew I was going to have a problem. So Randy and Jason wrote me a comedy bit where I literally there were people playing like classical violin. There was a guy who like walked on his hands, classic pianist, people with real talent. And Randy and Jason had me do a sock puppet show with 2 socks on my hands. And they wrote me this comedy bit, and they taught me when I was 20 years old that comedy is an art form. We were just screwing around, but I wound up getting to the next round, and I won. And anyway, they're my oldest friends on the planet. We obviously, my kids love them. I mean, they're as close as could be, and I love that the small world keeps getting smaller. We were just I travel with them. In fact, I just spoke to Randy 2 days ago.
Yeah. So I don't know, it was out of 6-7 weeks ago. They were in St. Louis, and I ran into them. And I was then allowed to tell them that I was going to become host of the show. And the first thing they said was, you have to get Brad on the show. He has a book coming out. You have to get Brad on the show. I was like, relax. I'll get him on the show. I was like, don't worry about it. But it was really very, very sweet. I met them. Their mother invited me to her book club. And so I went to.
Don't mess with Annette. Annette is the greatest. I'm on book tour right now. Next week I will be in St. Louis on Wednesday, and Annette knows you come. She has a permanent event. Last time I went, because I'm on book, I'm going to Dallas, I'm going to Houston, I'm going to St. Louis, I'm going to Ohio. Annette last time came with cookies and mandelbread, which is the highest sign of love. So trust me, wait till you ask her for the cookies.
So I'm at her house and I'm looking at the family photos. I was like, "Hey, I know these guys," and she's they're my sons. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, there you go." Last question for you, Brad. There's somebody out there who wants to be a writer, is thinking about being a writer, dreams about being a writer. Did you always want to be a writer? And what advice would you give to somebody who wants to be a writer?
You know, I wrote my first book, and my first book got 24 rejection letters. There were only 20 publishers at the time. I got 24 rejection letters, which means some people were writing me twice to make sure I got the point. And I said, if they don't like that book, I'm going to write another. And if they don't like that book, I'm going to write another. And the truth was, when I look back on the experience, I don't look back and say, well, I was right and they were wrong and ha-ha on them. That's a pig-headed way to look at it. But I look back and I say, if you're thinking about writing a book or any dream, whatever your dream is, the cliche is true. If you have to chase that dream. And it's not about just having, being stubborn or working hard or having the thing. It's about creating habits for yourself. So whatever you want to do, every day, write a page. Every day. It's like building a sandcastle, a grain of sand at a time. And don't let anyone tell you no. I had 24 people who told me to give it up. Don't do it. Don't let anyone tell you no. Keep going. You will find it. And I really hope you do chase that dream.
But it's a thing where, because I know that when it comes to radio, it was like, and it's sort of cliche. It isn't like I tried radio. It was like there was no other option for me. So it was radio or homelessness, because it was the only thing I ever wanted to do and the only thing I could do. And so I didn't try radio. I just did it. And it seems like with you, you just can't help yourself but sit down and write stories.
No, but it's the same thing, right? You have a talent, okay, and you pushed and put in the time. Mine, instead of radio, was just writing. I didn't know anything. I just tried because I didn't know anything else I was good at. I had a teacher who told me, and when I was in ninth grade, you can write. Changed my life with those 3 words. And I went. She tried to put me in the honors class. I had a conflict. She said, "Here's what I'm going to do. You're going to sit in the corner for the entire year and ignore every homework assignment I give. Ignore everything I do on the blackboard. You'll do the honors work instead." And when my first novel came out, I went back to that teacher. I knocked on the door. She said, "Can I help you?" I said, "My name is Brad Meltzer. I wrote this book, my first novel, and it's for you." And she starts crying. And I'm like, "Why are you crying?" And she said, I was going to retire this year because I didn't think I was having an impact anymore. And I said, "Are you kidding me? You have 30 students. We have 1 teacher." And I think for me, that one person who told me I was good at something, I was like, okay, I guess I'm good at writing. That's the thing I'm going to go do. You had someone along the way who I'm sure said I know you have a beautiful voice, but said you have a talent for this, and made you think you could do it. And so you tried to do it. And it's part of my commencement address was, when there's a social science theory that says when someone tells you the best version of you that exists, you actually try to become that best version. It's why the people you surround yourself with matter, because they lift you up. We're all chameleons. We act one way with our parents and another way with our friends. But at the end of the day, you got to surround yourself with the people who truly love you for who you are, who you don't even think about what you're doing or what you're saying, and help bring out that best version of you. You found someone to do that. I found someone to do that. Yours is in radio, mine's in books. But as Make Magic says, you got to keep surrounding yourself and find and make appear that best version of you.
Great stories are told by great storytellers, and that's Brad Meltzer. His new book is out, The Viper, a fast-paced thriller of family bonds and deadly conspiracies. #1 on Amazon, sure to be #1 and rising on the New York Times bestseller list when that comes out. Brad, be safe. Keep writing. You're always welcome here, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, brother.
You got it. Brad Meltzer, the book, The Viper, America at Night. Back in a moment.
America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. This is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, we're about out of time this hour. We're going to save next hour for phone calls. So if you're on the line, hold on. We'll get to you guys in order next hour. I know a lot of people want to talk about what happened in Minneapolis tonight, and we'll save the next hour for phone calls. There was a sad story I read about this morning coming out of Pittsburgh. And it was announced today that the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which is the region's in Pittsburgh's largest and oldest newspaper, will print its last issue on May 3rd. It has served the region in some way or shape or form since 1786. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette has won multiple Pulitzers along the way. The parent company said that it deeply regretted how the decision will affect Pittsburgh and the surrounding region. But the Pittsburgh is now going to be doing away with its daily newspaper. The Post-Gazette ran into some bad some bad finances, and it's happening all over the country. And this is a dangerous proposition for America, where you just lose a local journalist and a local newspaper. They lost more than $350 million over the last 20 years. Recently, they lost a court ruling. I don't know the particulars of the whole thing, but it was some union contract and some negotiations. They lost the ruling. The ruling said they had to reinstate some prior union contract and had to resume negotiations. That led to about 24 workers returning after a 3-year strike. Not to make a joke of it, but it sounds like when Kramer was on a 3-year strike from the bagel store. Anyway, they said that because of that recent ruling, they were not able to operate under practices in the 21st century under this ruling. And so they decided to close down the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette after all these many years. And I don't understand how, for all the problems and all the warts and all the issues that local newspapers have, local television stations, local radio stations have, it is still the best form of communication. They have ethics, they have rules. Granted, they make mistakes. Sometimes they're too liberal, sometimes they're too conservative, sometimes you don't like their opinions. But it is the best form of information to get from, and the best way to watch the elected officials and the taxpayers' dollar over the course of generations. And what did we replace it with? Twitter, which when you scroll on Twitter, you see 2 different opinions from posts you've never signed up for, and then all of a sudden it starts sending you pornography. So I don't quite get that we destroyed the old way, and the new way is an embarrassment to society. Sad news coming out of Pittsburgh. We wish the people of Pittsburgh well, and hopefully somebody is able to revise some type of local newspaper in the near future. Stay right there. We'll take open phones next hour. Our executive director tonight is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good. I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One.
Westwood One presents America at Night. Here's your host, McGraw Milhaven.
Well, the candlelight vigil is going on in Minneapolis tonight after the ICE shooting of the 37-year-old woman, and the video has been seen countless times. It's been broken down. It's been put into slow motion. It's been dissected. It's been rewound. I've seen it. I can't tell you how many times. And the more I see it, to be 1,000% honest with you, the more confusing it is. I don't know what happened. Nobody knows what happened before the video started. And when we see what happened, it's still very difficult because people will look at this. It's a Rorschach test. I get it. You'll see the video and you'll see it one way. Somebody else will see a video and somebody else will see it the exact opposite way. So it's a Rorschach test, right? Where they show you an ink spot and you say, oh, it's a banana. And somebody else says, what are you talking about? It's a monkey, right? So we all see our own things in this. But to me, if I'm being honest, and I looked at this video, can't tell you how many times I've seen this video now, I have still so many questions about what happened, where the ICE officer was. Was he hit with the car? Was he not hit with the car? What happened beforehand? I can't tell. There's no way to tell. I know that tensions are running high. I know that people are upset. People are angry. People are already angry before any incident today happened. They're already on edge. People are angrier. People are upset. People are there's a whole lot of energy. Unfortunately, something like this was bound to happen because the people are pouring gasoline on the fire. And at some point, something tragic was going to happen. Please, God, I hope this is the only thing that happens and there's not more of these things. But it's a very difficult day for the country and a very difficult night for Minnesota. Look, it's open phones, and we'll take your phone calls, and we can talk about it, and we can discuss. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. That's 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. I will say this. I know emotions are running high. I know there's a lot of energy. I know that there's a lot of passion, which is fine. But just as a little warning, if you start yelling at me, Richard, just take them off the air because I don't really feel like being yelled at. There's no reason to yell at anybody tonight. We can talk about this as we all love America. We all are rooting for America. And nobody's wrong in their opinion. And we can certainly talk about the news. But if you start losing your patience and you start raising your voice, I'm just going to ask you to say thank you very much and sort of move on because, quite frankly, I don't feel like getting yelled at tonight. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. John in Reno, Nevada. Thanks for holding on. Welcome to America at Night.
Hey, good evening. I feel horrible. This is just like the George Floyd case. We have a nice person that a lot of people liked that did some dumb stuff. And they made mistakes, and these mistakes caused their death. In the George Floyd case, 3 wonderful cops' lives were ruined. They didn't hit him. They didn't kick him. They didn't choke him. They wrestled with him because he refused to get in the car. In this case here, she ran over the ICE agent, and he shot her as he was instructed to do. It's horrible these things happen, but when people make foolish mistakes, these things happen. It's important not to try to blame law enforcement. We have to keep this in perspective and see who was in the wrong first.
Yeah, I don't think she ran over the guy. I don't think she did that. Did she? Did you see that?
Well, she started to run over him, and he had to scramble to get out from the front left fender. Yeah, and she hit him.
Did she hit him? Because I don't know if she hit. I haven't. I know that the ICE has said that he was hit. I think some officials in Minnesota have disputed that. I can't tell from the video if he was hit.
I saw it clearly. He was hit going about 2 or 3 miles an hour. It buckled his body back and knocked him out of the way. He then had to scramble to go around to the driver's side door. And as he was scrambling around, she kept accelerating. And that's when he fired the additional 2 shots.
Yeah. So hold on a second. Hold on a second. The way you see it is he shot her from the passenger side and then shot her from the front?
2 shots were from the passenger side. The first shot was from the front when she buckled him and was running him over. And then the second 2 shots was after he got around to the side.
On the passenger side?
No, the driver's side.
The driver's side. Yeah, see, now I don't see those 2 shots. And if you're shooting her from the passenger side, you're not in front of the car. You're not in danger if you're on the passenger side of the car after the car is, right? I mean, the car's not going to hit you if you're shooting from the passenger or from the driver's side. So
Yeah,
look, I'm not gonna. There's dissecting this is pointless and useless, and everything else. I agree with you in that it's a sad story, and I don't know what she was doing there. Right in a moment of anger, or nervousness or scared, she tried to get away. She wanted to just flee. And in a moment of, being scared or frightened or whatever else, the ICE officer felt threatened in that instant. And in an instant, right, you retaliate, you defend, right, in that split second. I agree with you, right? It's awful hard now sitting in the comfortable, studio where there's, I'm not afraid for my life to somehow judge what this guy did and judge what she did. The truth is it's a tragedy. But it's a tragedy because the energy in this country is toxic. Yes. Everybody is angry at everybody, and we just shouldn't be that angry with each other. We can disagree, we can have passionate conversation, but the vitriol that we hear from the president, the vitriol we hear from Tim Walz, the vitriol we hear from the mayor, is just pouring gasoline on the fire. And these politicians continue to ratchet up the rhetoric, creating this negative, toxic energy for its citizens.
They do. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. All right, John, thanks for the phone call. Appreciate your comments. Mary Lynn in St. Louis. You're on America at Night. Thanks for joining us.
McGraw, you talking to Mary Lynn?
Mary Lynn, you're on the radio. Yes, I am.
Okay. Hi, darling. You know who I am. We've talked before. I just wanted to say congratulations on your new show. I think you're doing great.
Thank you.
And I haven't seen the video, and I won't watch the video, but you don't screw with law enforcement when they're doing their job. Period. End of story. That's how I was raised anyway. That's all. I won't yell at you, I promise.
Mary Lynn, thank you very much for the phone call. You betcha. No, I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. I think generally speaking, you don't mess with law enforcement. That's a very good rule of thumb. There's still a lot to this, though. I don't think we have the answers to. What was the car doing there? Was it stopping the ICE officers from going down the street? That doesn't seem like a very smart decision. You can protest ICE. You can stand on the street corner with a sign and yell and cheer and chant and whatever else. But was she really in her car blocking ICE from going down the street? That is just not smart. And again, you want to de-escalate. Law enforcement is trained to de-escalate, not to increase the energy, right? To de-escalate, not to escalate. And I don't think the police officer, I don't think they were looking to de-escalate it. They were looking to escalate it. So, again, I don't know if that's criminal or not, but clearly cooler heads should have prevailed on both sides of this story. What do we got here? We've got, you know what, let me do this. Let me break. Paul and Frank, hold on. We'll get to your thoughts here in a second. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. America at Night, back in a moment.
Join the conversation. Call 844-2-McGraw. America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. What's happening in your world? Call 844-2-McGraw and be a part of America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
All right, it's open phones, 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Let's go back to the phones. Paul in Boise, Idaho. Paul, thanks for checking in on America at Night. Hello.
Thank you. Yeah, I changed my topic, but I wanted to talk about the the shooting that happened today that caused a huge ruckus. I believe after looking at that from 5 different angles and 3 times on the same side where it was the driver's side, I believe that he was almost bumped. I couldn't tell whether he got hit or not. But you're talking about a snow-covered road that was packed ice because of cars driving on it. There's absolutely no traction. And I think he grabbed onto the side of the car as best he could until he got his left arm inside the window and got some leverage there with his forearm. And he already had the gun in his hand. And what happened was he was going to slip and fall out of there. And I think the gun accidentally went off because when he slipped, it was a knee-jerk reaction. And there it was. Boom.
Hey, Paul. Again, I've seen this video numerous times. You're describing to me the man who didn't do the shooting. There was a man in front of the car. I know the guy you're talking about, the guy who was trying to get into the car. He tried to open the car door. He had his hands inside the window. He tried the handle. That's the guy on the side. That's not the guy who did the shooting, the way I see the video. Then when the car speeds away, that guy on the side sort of slips a little bit and sort of loses his balance for a second. That's not the guy who's doing the shooting, the way I see it. There's another man in front of the vehicle on the in the front on the driver's side, right? So he's on the driver's side in front of the car, in front of that man. And he's the one doing the shooting. The guy with his hands inside the car, I don't think he was doing the shooting.
Yeah, it's almost like the more different angles they had on the thing, the more confusing it made it.
No, there's no question. There is no question, Paul. Thanks for the phone call. The more you watch the video, the more I don't know what I'm looking at. And, again, you would think if you have video, it would be an open and shut case. But the angle, what happened, how it happened, it is very, very hard for me to get a good sense of what happened. Let's see here. Who's up next? Frank in Cumberland, Maryland. Frank, thanks for holding on. Welcome to America at Night.
3 comments about America's treatment of Venezuela. Number 1 from the Bible. Those who take the sword perish by the sword. Number 2, the Nuremberg trials by the Nazi war criminals. Plotting aggressive war was one of the crimes the Nazis were convicted of. And that is just what we are doing in regard to Venezuela and Iran and now Greenland. And from the Greeks, hubris brings nemesis, and that's going to come our way. Blowing up boats and killing the people on them just because we accuse them of a crime and not giving them a fair trial is a lynching, and it is murder. The U.S. has chosen the law of the jungle, might makes right, over the rule of civilized law, and the result will be payback we will forever regret.
Frank, anything else?
That's plenty, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I just wanted to make sure you got that off your chest. Frank in Cumberland, Maryland. Thanks for checking in, Frank. Eduardo in Tampa. Welcome to America at Night.
Just a small comment. I think Frank needs to run for office. But getting back to the shooting in Minnesota, I don't know what happened with, I think these officers should be using the stun guns more. I haven't heard anybody saying anything about that. I think that would have been better instead of, I thought that was kind of unfortunate and lazy and the police officer opening fire. But at the same time, I don't think these people, I wish they would not be following these people or blocking the streets. And I think this would also help if they got cooperation from the local police, because they can block these roads from any of these cars entering where there's ICE agents or operations.
Well, I think, I have seen some video where agents have used, I don't know if they're stink bombs or pellet guns or something. So I I've seen, I don't know if it's what do they call those tear gases, right? I don't know if I've seen some of those videos tonight where ICE agents have used some of those. I want to call them a smoke bomb, but that's not the right terminology. The other question I think you bring up, Eduardo, which is really interesting, is, and again, I say this with hesitation because in the comfort of a warm studio, not at a car pending down on me, and having no nervousness or energy or toxic feelings or anything like that, it's awful hard to second guess anybody in that situation, either one of them. But you have to wonder, why didn't the ICE officer just shoot the tires? Right? If they're worried.
There you go. There's another one. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
She wasn't going 90 miles an hour. Right? She was just turning. She was turning and shoot the tires, and then that there way she can't go anywhere. But again, you think about that after watching it for 17 times, and then say, oh, why didn't he just shoot the tire? I wasn't in his shoes. I can't speculate. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to judge her until I get more information, and because we just don't know enough. But the other thing is that, look, ICE is not welcome in these places, right? The National Guard is not welcome in these places, and it's made abundantly clear. And when you put law enforcement in a situation where the community doesn't want them, this is a recipe for disaster. Right? This is we shouldn't be shocked because something like this happened. I'm shocked that it doesn't happen more, because you're putting police officers in a situation where the people who they are supposed to be protecting don't want them there. And so it's a recipe for this type of stuff. Eduardo in Tampa, thanks for your insights.
Thank you very much.
You got it. America at Night. Back in a moment.
What's on your mind? Call 844-2-McGraw and be a part of America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Country's on edge tonight after a 37-year-old woman was shot and killed in her car in Minneapolis, as it appears that she was trying to block ICE as they went down the street, but that's in question. Lots of things are in question tonight, but a country on edge after this viral video has captured the attention of the country. 1-844-2-McGraw, 1-844-262-4729. Let's go to Salty in Albany, New York. Salty, hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you? Thanks for calling.
I've been watching videos of both the shooting on January 6th, where that Air Force girl got murdered, and the shooting in Minnesota.
You mean Ashley Babbitt?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That was a sanctioned hit. I'm an experienced weapons instructor. And the guy that pulled the trigger on that girl took his time raising his arm.
Which one are you talking about? Hold on a second. Are you talking about the Capitol shooting?
Ashley
or the
Babbitt.
one? Okay.
He just flat out killed her as a let's set an example type of deal. That was murder. This girl in Minnesota.
He was cleared, by the way.
He got cleared because he was a sanctioned shooter.
Well, I don't know what that means, but they did an investigation and he was cleared of any wrongdoing.
Right. He was sanctioned by the government.
I mean, you're saying the government wanted him to shoot her?
Yes, I am. I am.
All right. Okay. And
the girl in Minnesota?
Yes.
There's two different ICE officers involved. There's the guy that got out of the pickup truck and went up to her passenger door and tried to open it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another officer that's out in front of her SUV. He's the one that did the shooting.
Right.
Okay?
That's what I said.
Now, I'm an experienced shooter, I'm also very good in the snow. There was no reason for him to shoot. There was an empty field in back of him, and he could have dove off into that empty field and avoided the whole thing. There's no reason for him to shoot her. And I'm talking to you as someone who is as MAGA as you can get. But I got to call him as I see him. There was no reason for him to shoot her.
Well,
the other thing is this.
Yes.
He squeezed off more than one round. I mean, they're trained to do what's called a double tap, where you pull the trigger twice.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled the trigger twice when he didn't have to pull the trigger at all. He could have dove, backed right out of there into that empty field. There was no reason for him to shoot her.
Well, it looks like he shoots her from the passenger side window, right? The first two shots are
sir.
through.
No.
Oh, no. Hold on a second. It looks like he shoots her from the windshield, right? And then as the car passes him by, he's at least pointing the gun at the driver's side window, is he not?
No.
No?
He wasn't. The guy that did the shooting wasn't anywhere near the passenger side.
I'm sorry, not the passenger side.
He was well
I
out.
apologize.
He was well out.
I don't mean the passenger side. I mean the driver's side window. It looks like he shot through the driver's side window.
No, that's a separate guy. There's two guys.
I'm looking at this right now. And I know. The one guy tries to put his hand in the window and tries to unlock the car door. The second guy you're talking about, who's in front, he shoots from the windshield, and then it looks like he's at least pointing the gun in the driver's side window as she drives away. Which I'm agreeing with your point that I think it looks like he shoots her more than twice. So I'm agreeing with you. It looks like he shoots her more than twice, but it looks like he shoots her at least once, maybe twice, from the driver's side window. That's all.
I disagree with you on that.
Okay, all right. I
think he shot her twice through the windshield.
Yeah.
And then he may have gotten off a third shot. I can't be sure about that.
Yeah. No, I think
my point is this.
Yes.
My point is this. There was no reason for him to fire one shot.
Mm-hmm.
He could have bailed out into the field and back of them. The other thing is there's more to this that I want to point out here.
Okay, go ahead.
This whole thing supposedly started because an ICE vehicle got stuck in the snow. There's not enough snow in the film you're looking at for anything to get stuck in. They were driving. They were driving late model SUVs, and there's no reason for them to get stuck in the snow.
There's
not enough snow there to get stuck in.
Yeah, there's no ice or snow on the road. The roads are cleared. They might be a little wet, but there is no ice and there is no snow on the cars. Another point I would agree with you on. Anything else?
All right, now, yes.
Okay, continue.
There is more.
Okay.
This guy shot a woman, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When it was totally unnecessary for him to shoot at all. Then if you roll over to another set of films showing ICE agents arriving at a school and pulling parents out of cars, right? Again, you are looking at ICE agents picking on a woman, handcuffing a woman, all right? The mother of a little kid. I'm not down with that. If these ICE agents were picking on somebody of their own size, a guy who was acting violently, fine. But what are you doing ripping out a woman, ripping a mother out of her car throwing her on the ground in front of her kids and separating the family. It's like the guy said in this film that I'm talking about, what's that kid going to do at the end of the day when nobody comes to pick him up? I mean, this bit about shooting women, I'm not down with that.
Well, the other question the other question is, Salty, ICE, right? Immigration enforcement. She was an American citizen. What are they getting into a skirmish for with an American citizen for? What was going on there, right? I mean, what were they supposed to be doing? They're supposed to be capturing undocumented immigrants. What were they doing shooting an American citizen? Another question. Salty, look, I got to run, but I will say this. I appreciate your candor. I think your bona fides for being a MAGA is well intact with your comments about the Capitol shooting, and I appreciate you able to look at these two different shootings with a independent eye and drawing your own conclusion. Thank you for the phone call, and call back anytime.
Thanks for letting me talk.
You betcha. Salty in Albany, New York. I got a couple more minutes here. Let's go to DJ in Saratoga, New York. DJ, welcome to America at Night.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Your show is great. It really is.
Well, thank you.
I am also an experienced shooter from days in Miami, Florida, when I would go with the police force. I believe that what happened and what I saw, I think ICE agents put themselves on the line every single day. They put themselves in harm's way. This woman was very angry. She was very aggressive, and she, from what we saw, she did speed up and did head toward the agent. And when you're in a situation like that, you have to act. And no one really who's just sitting and watching a camera can tell what you're going through, what you're feeling, and why you are acting other than to save your life. And she was angry and she was aggressive, and I think she died as a result of her anger and her stupidity.
Let me ask you this question, DJ. You say you're an experienced shooter. Did you work for the police in Miami?
I was an abuse counselor, and I used to go out on cases with the police.
Gotcha. Did you carry a gun? Did you shoot in the line of duty?
I didn't carry a gun,
okay.
no.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
I can shoot, though.
So in response to Salty's question, Salty was saying that he could have jumped out of no. I mean, answer him.
That's just my opinion. I'm in tune with Mary Lynn. Go ahead.
I appreciate it, but I mean, I to have a greater understanding. He was a shooter or had experience. He said they could have dived out of the way. They could have gotten out of the way. And then secondly, talk about, because again, it's we all see the same video, but we see it 17 different ways. It looks like he's either shooting the gun in the driver's side or at least pointing the gun at her from the driver's side window. Speak to those things for a moment.
I thought it was the other officer who was on the driver's side.
It was, and then as she drives by the shooter, he's then on the driver's side.
Okay, after she became aggressive.
After she's shot. I don't know if she gets shot and she falls and her foot lands on the gas and speeds up. We don't know what happens after she gets shot.
Well, I think just her actions and the whole thing speak of someone who was angry and aggressive, and it's really hard to say what anyone is feeling at that point other than survival.
Well, no question. And we don't know if she was angry or if she was scared, and her first reaction was to flee.
Yeah.
Well, we don't. I don't. How do we know that? I don't know if we know that.
There was somebody on the news that was talking about she was demonstrating, and she was out demonstrating for a cause, and she was a very aggressive, angry woman.
No question. But in that scene, she could have been afraid and wanted to flee.
Could have been anything in that scene.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know what she was feeling in that instance, just like we didn't know what the police officer was feeling in that instant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to realize, if you're an officer out there in the open, it's easy for, what's his name, the idiot, to say, yeah, you could jump out in a field. Well, maybe that didn't enter your mind right at that moment.
No.
Like,
and I said,
wait, I'm going to stand up and go jump in the field.
Right.
You know?
And I said earlier, somebody could say, why didn't he just shoot the tires? Well, yeah, sure. After I've seen it, all afternoon and sitting in the warm comfort studio, I can ask that question. But
there's a lot of ifs.
Right. In that moment, woulda, coulda, shoulda is a whole different issue. So
exactly. Yeah.
Hey, DJ, thanks for checking in as always. Appreciate it. You got it. There's in the last 4 months alone, immigration officers have fired on at least 9 people in 5 states and Washington, D.C. All of those individuals targeted in those shootings were, like this woman in Minneapolis, in their vehicles when they were fired upon. 9 people in 5 states in the last 4 months have been shot at while in their vehicles from ICE. In each case, the officers claimed the agents fired in self-defense, fearing they would be struck by the vehicle. There are varying degrees of videos and non-videos, but that's sort of, look, this is what you get when you get a juiced-up ICE, revved up and ready to go, and juiced up to go after immigrants. And they've become aggressive, and many times they're in communities that don't want them there, and so you have stepped up law enforcement with a whole lot of energy in neighborhoods and in communities that don't want them, and so it's a toxic recipe. And again, something like this, God forbid, was right. You didn't have to have too much of an imagination to think something like this was going to happen. And it has. It has happened not just once, but 9 people in 5 states in the last 4 months were shot by ICE while in their vehicles. So this is clearly a pattern. This is the video that's gone viral, but it's been an issue the last couple of months. America at Night, back in a moment.
From the heart of America, this is America at Night with McGraw Milhaven. Join the conversation. Call 844-2-McGraw. America at Night with McGraw Milhaven.
Hey, I'll leave you with this. Check this out. The Epstein files. Some 12,000 files, photos, notes, legal documents were released earlier this month. 12,000 files, photos, notes, legal documents were released last month. What did I say, 12,000? But according to government officials, that is 1% of the material that the government has. The government has released 1% of the Epstein files. They're saying that there are more than 2 million other documents being reviewed. That is a lot in the Epstein files. Who knows how much is left and what's in it, but 1% of the Epstein files have been released. Hey, special thanks tonight to Brad Meltzer, who has written a brand new book called The Viper, #1 on Amazon, soon to be a New York Times best-selling book. The only reason why it's not is because it was just released yesterday. Also, Bloyce Olson joined us from WCCO in Minneapolis, a voice of reason, a voice of calm in an otherwise very hectic and chaotic and scary night in Minneapolis. Well, if you have a chance to go back and listen to that, it was really very interesting. And a special thanks to Alayna Treene, who joined us. She is the CNN White House correspondent. We hope to get her on much more often from time to time to give us a sense of what the White House was saying about Minneapolis, about Greenland, about Venezuela, and all of that. Tomorrow on the show, we are going to check in with a number of people, including Bill Cleveland. And the next, Friday, we have the author of, did you see the spy Aldous Ames died? This week we have the author of a book about Aldous Ames. And for some reason, spies, true life spies, Richard Hansen and Aldous Ames, they get confused, but they were two of the most prolific U.S. Double agents, right? They worked for the FBI, but then sold out to Russia. So we'll talk to that author later on in the week. And, of course, everything is live at AmericaAtNightLive.com. It's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks for listening, and thanks for the interesting and nuanced conversation. I appreciate it. The executive director, as always, is Alex Hinton. Our engineer tonight is Richard Good, and I'm McGraw Milhaven, and this is America at Night on Westwood One. Good night, everybody.